We've got a panel with us today. We've got David Schuster here as well, joining us here, political analyst here, Joe Pinion, as well, Republican strategist. Good to have both of you on. A long night for both of you last night. Thanks so much for coming on. It's always good to have you here. Joe, I'll start with this with you. How bad are things, do you think, in your opinion, for Biden right now? Already, he left New Hampshire early. He went straight to South Carolina.
Look, a hit dog hollers, and Joe Biden left New Hampshire with his tail between his legs looking for salvation. So, I mean, you think, I think I said before that if Iowa was holding back the levee of disaster, that his firewall is now flooded. By the time he gets all the way down to South Carolina, I think black voters are going to be looking for a new front runner to call their own, because right now, if inevitability was the thing that he had working in his favor, right now it is no longer in existence.
Some say it's not over for Biden, Schuster.
Well, it's not over if he can continue raising money, if he can continue inspiring people to join his campaign and to organize, but there's no indication that he's doing that. He's out of money. All he's got are these speeches with a couple of supporters around him. And Joe's absolutely right. I mean, this is the former vice president of the United States. You can't finish fourth in Iowa, fifth in New Hampshire, and expect people to suddenly say, oh, well, now I'm going to give you money because now we're in a place like South Carolina, which is more diverse. The Democratic nomination, the Republican nominations, they don't work this way.
But there are 1,300 delegates that are going to come up for Super Tuesday. There's still a huge playing field here. I mean, I don't know if you could count Biden out yet. There are supporters for him out there.
He could still be a player. He could be something of a disruptor, perhaps hold Bloomberg back, hold Amy Klobuchar back, who's somebody in the establishment who's going to try to make a run at Bernie Sanders. But again, the problem is that Joe Biden, in order to compete on a Super Tuesday, and this holds true for Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, it's really expensive to put up the ads in California and Texas and the other states, to get the organizers in the field. Bernie Sanders has already proven that he's got the organization, he's got the money, he's got the passion, he's got a lot of the issues on his side, at least for Democrats. It's hard to see how Joe Biden gets there.
Yeah, I think my whole college football coach told me an important lesson. He said you can't win a game in the first half, but you most assuredly can lose it. And so obviously we know that the month of March is rich with delegates, but obviously right now, Joe Biden might be on life support today. He might be 6 feet under by the time we get to March politically.
I want to get to this point. A lot of analysts looking into Sanders' win last night saying it will lead to an almost certain brokered convention, which would be a fun thing for a lot of people covering politics. But I want to play something for you. Chris Christie speaking on this, former Republican presidential candidate. This is what he's got to say here, and then I want to get your reaction. Take a listen.
Every 4 years, we hear someone speculate about a brokered convention.
This time it's real?
But this time I think, you know what? I'm going to go on the limb and say I think this time it's real. And here's the quandary for the Democratic Party, in my view. Bernie Sanders ran a very good race 4 years ago against a prohibitive favorite, Hillary Clinton. And he believes, and many of his supporters believe, that it was rigged. A lot of them believe that the cards were stacked in Hillary Clinton's favor. If we go into a contested convention this time, we don't get anybody with a majority on the first ballot. And then the second ballot, superdelegates come in. The party leaders, the party royalty comes in. And Bernie Sanders doesn't get it. I absolutely believe he'll burn down that village in order to save it.
Well, he may not, but his supporters may not go along with it.
All right, so there you go. Chris Christie speaking there about a brokered convention. I'll bring back in the panel here. What do you think? Does Christie have a point?
He does, because if it's Mike Bloomberg who gets the nomination because of super delegates on a second ballot, a billionaire, he's right. I mean, Bernie Sanders supporters will not tolerate a billionaire getting a nomination. This whole campaign is about going after the 1% who have control of more of the wealth than the bottom 30%. But here's the thing. I mean, I think there's still a chance that Bernie Sanders has a sizable enough lead in terms of the plurality of the delegates. He's got more delegates than anybody else to go into the convention, team up, make a deal with Elizabeth Warren, maybe make a side deal with Amy Klobuchar and be able to get over the hump. The challenge that Democrats have is something that Republicans don't. Republicans in most of their contests are winner take all. And so automatically you're going to get somebody over the hump. But as long as Bernie Sanders is only getting 30, 35, 40% of the vote the entire way, he's not going to have enough delegates and he'll have to cut a deal.
Joe, what about Bloomberg here? We had that tape come out yesterday, 2015, talking about stop and frisk here, creating a problem for some specific voters. Is this going to play out in a bad way for Bloomberg?
Oh, look, it's not ideal, but I think, again, if you're talking about who is Bloomberg appealing to, he is appealing to older African-American voters, and their number one priority is who can go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump. Trump. I think that's why you saw Vice President Biden leading some of those early polls, because, again, that is the number one priority in the African-American community. And so I think, irrespective of this stop and frisk stuff that is well documented, I think that causes problems with younger voters more so than it causes with more pragmatic older voters as well.
There's also no indication that stop and frisk actually works. I mean, Bloomberg has said, the way that we stop gun violence is that anybody who happens to be African-American, who's young, well, we throw them against the wall and we frisk them. That's an antithesis of everything the Democratic Party stands for. And there are some Democrats and maybe some Republicans who feel like, yeah, this is a way that you have to stop crime. But there's no proof that actually works. And I don't think there's any way that Bloomberg can stand by this policy without constantly renouncing it and have a chance.
I think he has renounced it. I mean, there is the issue of, does anyone actually believe he's being sincere? I remarked that he hasn't had an actual change of heart. He's had a change of circumstances. And the circumstances that have changed that he wants to be president of the United States in the Democratic primary. So that's, I think, what we're dealing with more so than actually any substantive change on the issues.
I want to get your take on this. Roger Stone, we want to get your thoughts on this one. Attorneys for Roger Stone yesterday, who actually prosecuted Roger Stone, quit the case after the Justice Department overruled their decision to seek a 7 to 9 year prison sentence for Stone. Well, President Trump blasting the sentencing here. Take a look, recommending writing on Twitter, "This is a horrible and very unfair situation. The real crimes were on the other side. As nothing happens to them, cannot allow this miscarriage of justice." David Schuster, your thoughts on that?
Roger Stone was convicted on all 7 counts that he was indicted on: lying to Congress, lying to federal investigators, obstructing the investigation. There are Justice Department guidelines for what the recommended sentence should be. These prosecutors detailed in the special counsel investigation were following those guidelines. If the Justice Department believes that guidelines for somebody of Roger Stone's age or because of the nature of his crime that those guidelines are wrong, they should argue that. If President Trump feels that this is inappropriate, he should pardon him. But this does feel to a lot of people like a very sleazy way the Justice Department is handling
Real
this.
quick, Joe Pinion, your thoughts, and we got to go.
I mean, look, you've heard everyone from, Jeffrey Toobin remarking on one hand that he thought that the sentencing was excessive and then agreeing with that, and the second hand also not thinking that President Trump should have intervened in the manner or that the Justice Department should have responded to his intervention. So I think it's muddled water. It's really a mess, and honestly, I think really we just have to kind of see how this thing plays out.
Hey, look, it's always great to have both of you here, and I appreciate you always weighing in. Good sports political reporter David Schuster, Republican strategist Joe Pinion. Thank you very much for coming on.